Emotional eating gets a bad rap, largely because of the diet mentality and the thinking that anytime you're eating, not for meeting your physical hunger and doing that with a very high degree of precision, it's a bad thing. And I would like to introduce the idea that emotional eating is not a terrible thing and that it's our job, not that it should be, but it's our job and our work to remove the pathology from emotional eating so that it can become one of many different coping skills that we use from time to time when we're, for one reason or another, unable to deal directly with what's going on. It's important to realize that part of what makes emotional eating so distressing is the belief that it's so bad. And so what might be interesting is to explore what it would mean to remove that pathology and to look at it as one of what I hope are many different ways of working with emotions and see if that actually affects how you engage in emotional eating. Because what tends to happen is that people understandably don't feel like they have a lot of coping skills at their fingertips. Food, on the other hand, tends to be more readily available, not very expensive, much less complicated than dealing with other human beings, something that you have to do anyway. And so it's there, but that belief that's there, that it's a bad thing to engage in emotional eating, often makes emotional eating experiences more amplified. And so I'm suggesting that perhaps you ask yourself, what would it be like if emotional eating were one of the ways in which I approach coping with feelings that feel difficult and overwhelming to me at times, and that I don't think of it as inherently bad. And part of this, I think, involves acknowledging the emotional relationship that we have with food. And that I think that's a good thing. There are some people out there that will say that the goal of intuitive eating is to have a neutral relationship with food. And I don't feel that. And it could be an issue of language because different people have a different definition of neutral. For me, I have a very emotional relationship with food, but I also feel a peaceful relationship with food. And I think that retaining the emotional connection with food and finding a way to allow the relationship with food to simultaneously be peaceful and based on trust and an understanding and an embracing of the emotional connections that we have with food, I think that's the way to go. And part of why I feel this way so strongly is because part of what motivates us and part of what fuels a very engaged, genuine intuitive eating practice is elevating our preferences and the things that we have positive associations with to a degree of priority. So if there are foods that feel nostalgic for you or very connected with celebrations or your spirituality or your culture or your lineage, you know, a special dish or types of food that you ate in certain circumstances or that you found soothing when you were a child and you weren't feeling well or something like that happened. That's the quality of emotional relationship with food that I hope that you can retain while also creating peace, so that the decisions about what and when and how much to eat, and also how to engage with other behaviors when the need is more emotional than physical in terms of hunger, I hope that you can create space for your preferences, your nostalgia, your culture, your connections, your celebrations, your shared experiences, and allow food to be a very significant part of that. FYI, this evening, we are having a workshop from 6 to 7 p.m. This is March 8th, Wednesday, March 8th, by the way. And it's all about emotional eating and how it overlaps with binge eating and stress eating and eating in response to primal hunger and things like that. Also, ways to work with it that are logistical in nature, that are cognitive kind of thought work in nature, and ways that are more somatic. We'll really be taking a deep dive into this topic of emotional eating and looking at it from lots of different angles so that you can decide for yourself what feels like the right type of emotional relationship that I feel would be beneficial to my life, and what type of emotional relationship with food feels like it detracts from my life or causes me to stress. And how do I start to create that relationship? How do I create the container for that type of relationship with food to emerge? Thank you so much for listening. And I would love to hear your thoughts about emotional eating. Reach out if you have any questions about it in general, or if you have questions about the workshop this evening. It will be recorded, and there is a beautiful PDF. This is the black and white version, but Lisa, my lovely assistant, has also made a beautiful color version where you can take notes and keep this handy for when you're working with emotional eating. So do check it out, and I hope to see you there.